Mullets are back. No, this isn't an 80s throwback. We're talking about mullet mountain bikes. What do we mean by mullet bikes? Well, they use different size wheels front and rear, with a bigger 29-inch hoop up front with a smaller 27.5-inch rim out back. With a lot of modern bikes, you have the choice of running them as a full 29er or with that smaller wheel out back, boosting their versatility. Just like the haircut, mullets are now back in fashion, especially as they've been allowed in UCI competition since a 2019 rule change. We've put together 5 bikes that you can mullet if you want business up front and party out back. Kicking us off is the new Forbidden Druid V2. The original Druid was one of the first modern trail bikes that could take a mullet wheel setup officially thanks to the use of the brand Ziggy Link. This replaced part of the suspension linkage and corrected the geometry when using that smaller back wheel. The new Druid keeps its mulleting possibilities, but goes about it slightly differently thanks to its revised suspension design. Gone is the Ziggy Link. Instead, you have to change the bike's chainstays, making the switch slightly more complicated. The original bike used a high pivot with a linkage actuated single pivot design and a one-piece rear triangle, whereas the new bike retains the high pivot but uses an inverted horse link linkage. This works by having a pivot on the rear triangle and the linkage driving the shock being upside down. Imagine a regular horse link bike suspension turned upside down and hopefully you get the idea. Thankfully though, Forbidden offers the Druid in a stock mullet wheel option. Phew! The Druid also uses the brand's One Ride philosophy. It claims this allows riders to experience a similar ride characteristic regardless of their size or stature. In practice, One Ride means that different rear centre lengths are used across the size range. The smaller S1 size has a shorter 423mm rear centre, with the biggest S4 size increasing this to 466mm. To go with the differing rear centre lengths, the rest of the Druid's geometry is bang up to date, with a slack for a trail bike 64.5 degree head angle when set up as a mullet bike, and a fairly long 475mm reach on a size S3, putting it right in the ballpark of size largest from other brands. The Druid is available as a frame set from £3,599 or $3,799 or 3 complete builds, starting at £6,299 or $6,199 for the GX Axis RS, before topping out at £8,999 or $8,899 for the all-singing Exo Axis model. If you want to stand out on the trail, the Forbidden Druid is definitely worth a look. The HB916 is Hope's latest bike and has been designed from the ground up with enduro racing in mind. The brand has focused on making it efficient, balanced, predictable and easy to ride, so you can save precious seconds and energy when tackling the toughest trails around. Like the Forbidden, it uses an on-trend high pivot and idler suspension design that in this case delivers 160mm of bump-eating travel with a chip in the seat stays, allowing you to run that smaller 27.5-inch back wheel for a mullet setup. Unique to the HB916 though is its glorious made in the UK carbon and aluminium frame. The front triangle is moulded in the traditional way in one piece, while the chain and seat stays are a hybrid construction of aluminium and carbon. Not only that, but the frame features internal cable routing, rubber frame protection and down tube storage. In a very typical UK way, Hope calls this the butty box, so you can cram your sandwich, butty, burrito or wrap of choice in there. The lid of the butty box also doubles as the bottle cage mount, and Hope claims you can fit a full-size bottle inside the front triangle too. Hope offers the bike in 4 sizes, from H1 to H4, mimicking more traditional small through extra large sizing, and the headset is adjustable between 64 and 63.2 degrees. Naturally, the complete bikes are decked to the nines with Hope components and comes with a choice of Öhlins or Fox suspension as well as 3 frame colours: bare carbon, a classy black and neutral, or a stunning chameleon option. The HB916 is available in 2 SRAM builds, starting from the £6,745 or €8,500 GX build, or a frame and shock with a price of £3,750 or €4,700. If you already have a drivetrain or want to add your own, you can buy the HB916 Sons Group Set from £6,250 or €7,900. We enjoyed our time on the HB916, so check out the full review with the link in the description. Building on the long-running success of its race-winning Mega, the new Proof Giga is a big travel enduro race rig for when you just need more bike. While the Giga is available as a full 29-inch wheel bike or a 27.5-inch wheel frame set, it's the 297 mullet bike that really whets my appetite. Packing a massive 180mm of travel front and rear and some of the most aggressive geometry around, the Giga is built to monster the toughest enduro races. The carbon frame certainly has its own unique look, but that's not all that's unique about the Giga. Whereas other bikes might have a flip chip to alter the progressivity of the suspension, the Giga uses a 2-position eccentric main pivot system to offer either 25.5 or 29% progression, making it ideally suited for either coil or air shocks. Combined with excellent small bump sensitivity to go with plenty of progression and monster amounts of travel, it's easy to see why the Giga is such a capable bike, and that's before you move on to its geometry. The slack 63.5 degree head angle and long 475mm reach on a size large put the big 29-inch wheel way out front for masses of stability, while 435mm chainstays tuck the smaller 27.5-inch back wheel in close to the bottom bracket shell to maximise your smiles in the corners. Part of the beauty of the Giga though is just how versatile it is. As I've mentioned, it comes as a dedicated 297 mullet only model, but you can also convert the full 29er 290 to a mullet with a separately sold linkage kit. This keeps the geometry largely the same, but with longer 445mm chainstays for a bit more stability. What's even better is that if you're the proud owner of a Giga 290 but want the full mullet effect, you can buy the shorter 297 rear triangle as well, so you can literally have two bikes in one. The Giga 297 is available as a frame with Fox Float X2 shock from £2,599 or $3,099, or for a bit extra you can choose other shocks from Fast, EXT or Push. Complete bikes start at £3,699 or $4,899 for the Giga 297 Comp, before topping out at $6,299 or $7,899 for the range-topping RS model. The Giga 297 is a phenomenal bit of kit, so much so we named it our Enduro Bike of the Year in 2022, so be sure to check the links in the description for our full review. From one Enduro Bike of the Year winner to another, it's time for 2023's victor to enter stage left, the Merida 160 8000. Merida might not be a brand that you associate with hard-hitting mullet bikes, but the 160 certainly has plenty in its locker to pique your interest. Looking at the geometry and the usual head angle measurement aside, it's the 160's seat angle that really stands out. At 79 degrees, it's incredibly steep, putting your hips well over the bottom bracket for an upright ride position that's perfect for winching up long transfers between enduro stages. It might put a bit more strain through your wrists on flatter sections, but the payoff of a better seated position for steeper climbs is worth it. Out front is a 170mm travel fork that keeps the head angle at 64 degrees, while a reach of 470mm on the midsize is very long compared to other medium bikes in the category. Speaking of sizing, it's worth noting that only the three smallest sizes come set up as a mullet as standard. If you go for the long or extra long sizes, you'll need to swap out the bigger 29-inch wheel and switch the flip chip to the mullet setting. Moving on to that suspension, and the 160 deals out 171mm of rear wheel travel in the mixed wheel setup. That in its own is not unusual, but the fact the rear triangle uses flex stays instead of a pivot is a feature that is rarely seen on longer travel bikes. Merida calls this P-Flex and claims that by using the compliance of carbon and specific tube shaping, they can remove the pivot points at the seat and chainstay junction to save weight, reduce maintenance, and improve overall stiffness. Have you ridden one? Let us know what you think in the comments. We love the 160, so be sure to check out how it stacked up with the other enduro bikes in this year's Bike of the Year test with the pop-out banner above. For our final pick, we thought we'd be a little controversial and throw an e-bike into the mix. Trek's Fuel EXE is the brand's lightweight eMTB, shaving a ton of weight from the full power rail with its bigger motor and battery. The dinky TQ HPR50, which stands for Harmonic Pin Ring, dishes out 50 Nm of torque with a peak power output of 300 watts, and assistance ranging from 25 to 200% depending on the mode. It's not only compact, but light too, weighing a claimed 1,850 grams, which is around 1,000 grams lighter than Shimano's EP8 and Bosch's Performance Line CX electric mountain bike motors. On top of that, it's seriously quiet, so with its sleek looks as well, you'd be hard pressed to tell it's an e-bike at all from a distance. The three modes, dubbed Eco, Mid and High, are controlled via a small 2-button controller on the handlebar, and naturally there's an app to help keep an eye on the motor, battery and tune things like the maximum power in each mode, as well as a host of other settings. But what about its mulletability, I hear you ask? Well, the Fuel EXE can of course be run as a mullet bike. However, unlike the other bikes on this list, it can't be purchased as one. Off the shelf, it's a full 29er only, so despite the fact the range topper costs a whopping £13,500 or $14,000, you'll have to pony up for a spare 27.5 inch back wheel as well. Once you've got your smaller back wheel though, switching the Fuel EXE to its mullet mode is easy. Just throw the smaller wheel in the frame, flip the minnow link to the high setting and you're ready to rock and roll. So what do you think of mullet bikes? Are you all about the party in the back? Have you mulleted your own bike? Be sure to let us know in the comments, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check out this video to see why our own Will Soph has mulleted all of his bikes.